It's beginning to look a lot like a Marvel Age Groo cover Christmas. Hi, I'm Darren, these are my hands, and this is Groo Tube, where we appreciate the art of Sergio Aragonés. Today we are going to look at not 3 Marvel Age Christmas Groo covers, but just one. Ba-dum-bum-ching! For those who don't know, Marvel Age is basically the inside baseball comic/magazine from Marvel Comics. Comics that are going to be for sale over the next month or so. Some articles about their staff, maybe things that they're selling. Maybe it's of interest to comic book store owners, especially back in the 80s and 90s. It was not of any interest to me at all, but now I find it actually kind of interesting. So it might be fun to take a look inside after we take a look at this cover. And what a cover we have to look at here. Groo the Wanderer, swords drawn, crashing through the door of Santa's workshop. What's going on here? You better watch out. You better not cry. Groo the Wanderer is coming to slay the elves. I don't know what's going on here. It looks to me like Rufferto has some questions about what's going on here too. This is just a funny, crazy comic. I don't really want to know the backstory, why Groo is attacking Santa or his elves in the workshop, but it's pretty funny to look at here. So when I was looking at this cover just a few moments ago, I was thinking, you know what? Rufferto's coloring doesn't look right to me. His belly, yeah, there's a little bit of white on Rufferto's belly. That's a lot of white on Rufferto's belly. And the white is actually going around his face here, his teeth, his mouth. And the orange, the yellowy, browny orange, I don't know, that color just doesn't look quite like Rufferto to me. It's close, but something just seems a little bit off to me. And then look at his collar. His collar has the same color as Groo's gauntlets, and that's not right. It should be like the jewel-studded collar, right? Not the same as Groo's red and yellow here. And even looking at Groo's bandana and the cords that strap his Walkman and his sheaths to his back, I don't know, the color looks a little bit off to me, and Groo's hair is like gray, not brown. I don't know. Just a few things about the coloring here made me think something's not quite right about this. So I flipped it open, and this is what I saw. Sergio Aragonés, cover artist. Gregory Wright, colorist. So there we go. This is not a Tom Luth color job. This color is Gregory Wright's. Thank you, Gregory, for your work. We can tell that you're not Tom, and that's okay. Thank you, Sergio, for this Christmas present, this Xmas issue cover. But you know what? It's not just the cover of Marvel Age that is of interest to us Groo fans. No. Any other Groo video might just end right here. But on Groo Tube, we're going deep inside to see what's going on. There's lots more Groo to find in this issue of Marvel Age. So let's look. So as I said, one of the things that happens right at the very beginning of a Marvel Age comic is they will tell you the comics that are coming out this month. And titles shipping January 9th and on sale January 30th, it's Groo the Wanderer, issue number 63. Why, I happen to have issue number 63 right here. Look out! Groo meets his old friends, or are they foes? Friends and foes? What? That would be a great idea for a miniseries, a maxi miniseries. Look out! Groo meets his old friends, or are they foes? Pal and Drum. The chaos that results is epic. Ouch. But surely there's more Groo stuff to be read about in this issue of Marvel Age. Well, there is. Here's a column called Mark's Remarks. And in it, Mark Gruenwald tells us about his visit to the Frankfurt Book Fair, a gathering of book publishers from across the globe who get together to show their wares, negotiate their rights for foreign language editions of their publications, and to have a good time. If we take a look at his list, we can find out where Groo's being published. So, right here, we've got Groo being published in France, one of their top 5 markets. And they're also getting titles such as Dino Riders, Count Duckula, Spider-Man, Indiana Jones, Martial Law, Elektra, Assassin, Black Panther, and other limited series and graphic novels. But look at that, Groo. Where else is Groo being published? Well, if we go down here, he's being published in Greece, And flipping over the page, Groo, along with Conan, Spider-Man, and the Avengers, are one of the titles being published in Yugoslavia. So the end of 1989, the beginning of 1990, there's some official foreign language translations of Groo out there. But wait, that's not all. Check this out. A 2-page feature on the amazing legend of Groo the Wanderer. A sword, some cheese dip, and thou. I'll read the very beginning to you, and then I'll tell you what's kind of going on. Who's the dumbest barbarian of them all? Why, it's Groo the Wanderer, of course. Who sinks every ship on which he sets sail? Groo. Who thinks his dog would make a good snack? Groo. Who is slow of mind but quick with his sword? Groo. Who travels from town to town, lowering property values wherever he goes? Groo. Who is the only human being with a brain smaller than that of a dinosaur? Groo. Who makes Conan look like a rocket scientist? Who else could it be but Groo, the lovable but destructible barbarian, who doesn't mean to cause total chaos wherever he goes. It just works out that way. So, this article, written by Brian Nelson, tells the reader who might not be reading Groo the Wanderer what Groo is all about, where he came from, the mind and pen of Sergio Aragonés, his beginnings at Pacific, then Eclipse, and how it came to Marvel's Epic Comics. The author goes on to make a comment that the internal consistency of the Groo the Wanderer comics is another element in Groo's success. His fans know he'll never leave his time period, except for the Rufferto miniseries, and he'll never team up with Wolverine or engage in a multi-title crossover epic. Well, maybe not in 1990, but when the opportunity is right, I guess that happens. Brian extols the team of Sergio, Mark, Stan, and Tom, calling Tom the most resourceful colorist in comics. Brian talks about some of the recurring characters and notes that the Sage is a personal favorite of both Mark and Sergio, perhaps because his wisdom makes such a startling contrast to Groo's ineptitude. Brian comments that Sergio Aragonés has been published in every issue of Mad Magazine since its inception. Well, maybe not that much, but certainly, aside from Al Jaffe, I think he's the most published in Mad Magazine. The author mentioning future issues of Groo the Wanderer, like when Groo becomes a painter, and perhaps the garbage issue. Brian mentions the 2 Groo the Wanderer graphic novels, The Life of Groo and The Death of Groo, and finishes off by talking about a potential Groo the Wanderer live-action movie. With all this Groo material, John Goodman or Jim Belushi should have plenty of research available if they ever play Groo on film. But Mark says Groo may never be translated to live action. Look at all those characters Sergio draws. No film company could afford that many actors. And there's this fun, quick little sketch Sergio did of himself, wearing some lederhosen and holding a big beer. Maybe he was at Oktoberfest that year. But you know what? There's even more. Ooh, Fred Hembeck. Looking at Marvel graphic novels, Marvel H finds some time to mention The Death of Groo by Mark Evanier and Sergio Aragonés, how it chronicles the further adventures of the most dangerous and stupidest swordsman of them all. Interesting. Brian does mention The Life of Groo and The Death of Groo. The magazine is shilling The Death of Groo. When did Life of Groo come out? Published by Epic Comics in 1993. Wow. So Brian there was getting a little ahead of himself. But wait, there's more. The Marvel A to Z conclusion talks about Superstars, written by Mark Evanier, with art by Dan Spiegel, an ongoing regular Epic comic. Well, I guess it was ongoing for a few issues. And here's one last thing that I want to show you. At the back of the magazine is their letter pages. Go ahead, make my lunch. And here's a really interesting letter. Dear Supreme Marvel Zombies, I have several intriguing questions to ask you. On average, when a comic book artist does art for a particular comic book, how much does the artist get paid for his or her work? Does an artist get paid on a page-by-page basis or for the entire art for that issue? Are comic book artists considered independent contractors, since they supply their own tools for drawing, or regular employees, or what? How does Marvel pick a person to draw a particular comic book? Those are really interesting questions to me. Now, of course, this is back in the late 80s, but this is what the response is. Taking your questions in order, 1 and 2. Pencilers and inkers are paid by the page with a beginning rate of $40 per page for pencilers and $35 per page for inkers. These figures increase as the artist gains more experience and popularity. Top pencilers can earn well over $100 per page, and that figure doubles if they handle the inking chores as well. With the average comic book coming in at roughly 22 pages, those page rates are nothing to sneeze at. Cover artists are paid more since covers play a very important role in catching people's eyes and attracting new readers to the book. So that's pretty cool. In addition to the basic page rates, artists also share in royalty payments with writers and editors. These payments are based on how well their comic sells. The creative team receives additional money if their work is reprinted, and the artist and inker are given their original art back, divided between them, which many artists choose to sell to produce even more income. Although comics pay well, a newcomer may have to struggle for years before landing a regular assignment. But once an artist is well established and in demand, he can make a very comfortable living in comics. Of course, Sergio, Mark, Stan, and Tom working on Groo the Wanderer, their way of working was way different than normal mainstream comics as a creator-owned and published comic. Still, this is really interesting stuff to me. Let's keep reading the answer. There are 2 kinds of artists we deal with here at Marvel. Freelancers, who could be considered a type of independent contractor, and staff artists who work full-time exclusively for us. It's up to the individual editors to choose the artist they feel is most suitable for a job. Often an artist will request a specific book or character he likes to draw, and we try to accommodate these requests whenever possible. The main thing is matching each artist's own unique style with the type of book he is best suited for. So, really interesting answers on how artists are paid and how they get assignments, at least back in the late 80s. So there you go. Merry Christmas from Marvel Age, from Sergio Aragonés. Groo the Wanderer, Merry Christmas from me, Darren, at Groo Tube. If you enjoy these Groo the Wanderer videos, please give this video a like and make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, because I will be back soon with more Groo Tube. Take care, everybody. It's beginning to look a lot like a fray. What's going on here?